Evolution, a company with great financials, which has rubbed me a little bit the wrong way, and we'll talk about why in this video. Hi everyone, to my 150 subscribers. I cannot believe it. It's absolutely crazy. Hi everyone. This video is gonna be a little bit different. I'm just gonna rant. Honestly, I have a terrible headache, but I just want to get it out there and get over with this stock. And I'll try to add more like screenshots and more information while I edit this video. So it's gonna be a little bit of a different format. I'll try to keep it short, but I do have some insights and some things to say, and just overall conclusions maybe about investing overall with this company. By the way, I want to really apologize about the quality of the video in recent videos. I know it's been terrible. My computer is dying, and I'm gonna buy a new computer just in a few days. It's dying overall, not just when I record videos. I really need a new computer, and I hope it's gonna get better. I'm sure it's gonna get better, so please stay tuned, and thank you for the patience. I promise it's gonna get better in the next few weeks. So, Evolution. For whoever watched my video with about my entire dividend portfolio, you know that I just recently sold a Billerud, a Swedish company, which I actually held in Swedish kronas in the Swedish market, and I sold it, and I was left with the kronas. And my initial plan was to have this small capital. It's like 3% of my portfolio in Sweden constantly, and finding new ideas there. And I had already a few target stocks that I thought I would maybe want to rotate to, and those two stocks were actually Evolution, which we'll talk about today, and the Svenska, this Swedish bank, but eventually I'm deciding probably not to invest in any of them, and I'm gonna lose on the foreign on the exchange, which I did from the dollars to the Swedish krona, and I'm now exchanging it back. And I'll talk more about the process I did. It's probably not really interesting to most of you, so I'll just mention it in a few words in the end of this video. But for now, let's talk about Evolution. So Evolution seems like a great company. It was on my target list for a while to research. I finally got to it. It really has great financial. We'll look at them in a minute. I'll just talk about the business a little bit, and then we'll look at the financials, and then it's gonna be just a rant today. So Evolution is a gaming company, and AI gaming, I mean gambling company, which its strongest market and its most unique market is the live gaming, where you actually connect. If you, for whoever doesn't is not familiar with this, you actually connect to an active studio where there is a host with the gaming equipment and the whole studio around them, and the games are actually going live. It's like half digital, half physical, as opposed to real gaming tables. A lot of people can connect to it, and it has a lot of strength. So Evolution have also both traditional gamings like blackjack and roulette, and they have their own proprietary games which really succeeded. The most successful one is called Crazy Time, where it really exploded, and it's super popular, and it's a great revenue source for them. So the way Evolution works is business to business, B2B. Actually, the people who play do not connect directly to Evolution platforms. They connect to their own gaming platforms that they usually use, and inside there they can choose to play games that belong to Evolution. And Evolution, their customer is this gaming platform where they have contracts with them where they both have a fixed price, and they get a percentage of the revenue for each game. So this is their business model, very solid business model. Again, the financials are absolutely, if you can say, too good to be true with Evolution, but it is a very consistent revenue stream, very consistent earnings, which are growing. Evolution has very impressive growth. It is active in Europe, its biggest market, and it's growing, and the US also, and it's growing, and it's penetrating Asia more and more, which of course might be their biggest total addressable market, because we know Asia and gambling. So They have a their biggest studio is in Georgia, which we'll talk about extensively soon. They have, I think, I saw somewhere between 38% to half of their employees or their revenue or their studio like activity is in Georgia. They have a big center there, and they have more studios in other places, and now they're opening more because they have all those problems in Georgia, which we'll talk about soon. So obviously, as a gaming company, it is very affected by regulation. And of course, there are countries where their activity is legal. There are countries where their activities is absolutely illegal. And there are many gray countries also. So this is changing, of course, constantly. And one of the biggest risks with investing in companies like Evolution is the regulatory risk, where laws can change and affect their business tremendously. Having said that, they do operate in a lot of gray markets where their legality of their business is questionable anyway, and they still operate. So I'm not sure how much of a real risk it is, but it is a risk. So just to mention that. So let's just go over the financials real quick, and then I'll talk about the risks and the issues that the company is currently facing and my overall opinion about this. So just to look a little bit on the financials of Evolution, really everything looks too good to be true, really amazing. Both the valuation, which we'll maybe touch upon in the end, we'll touch upon it with fast graphs in the end, and the overall, even here in Google Focus, we see the valuation really, so we see the revenue is, the growth is really impressive, the revenue, the growth of the net income, the EBITDA is really impressive, the non-existent debt. I think it's just no debt company. Yeah, just no debt. High cash, which I don't know why they're sitting on this high cash. The dividends they're paying, the company is paying a 3% dividend at the point, which I kind of have to say, on one hand, they do sit on a lot of cash, and they are a cash cow, cash machine. So it's nice for shareholders to get some of this cash. And on the other hand, it's such a high growth company, which I'm sure with very high return on invested capital, maybe it's a little bit less in the last few years, but overall very high return on invested capital, which kind of makes me question why not keep this cash and grow even more. But then I do also kind of dislike companies that grow too fast. I think you need to pace yourself, but Evolution does grow a little bit too fast. So maybe faster is too fast anyway. So just to give this kind of, it's a Swedish company, and we're kind of not used to have high growth companies paying dividends, but I guess it's a different culture also in Europe. So so it does pay a 3% dividend. We can see that here, and it has very high cash flow, very high net free cash flow, operating cash flow. So everything looks really amazing. It doesn't issue a lot of shares. I mean, everything looks good, really. Not a lot to say here. It is a super cash machine. It has very consistent revenue, very high margins, which are also pretty consistent. I think they've been a little bit down in just in the recent quarter. Maybe it has to, if I remember correctly, it has to do with the whole Georgia situation. But it's just a small bump along the way. Overall, we can see even here the high margin. I mean, even in those bars, very, very impressive financials. But here comes the rant. So the biggest issue that the Evolution is facing right now is the situation in Georgia with its employees. So again, it has a huge portion of its employees in Georgia, and they are unionized. And a few months ago, they went on a strike with all kind of complaints from the biggest one is, of course, the salaries. They are demanding a huge raise in the salaries, to smaller complaints like the sanitation in the building, and that the company should cover the costs for like makeup and shoes of the studio workers, and all kind of claims. And again, I don't want to get into the politics of a union. I have no firm opinion about it anyway, and it's irrelevant also. But the situation has gotten kind of worse and worse. Where at first it was like more than 1,000 workers were on strike, and now it's about 300, I think. So it's gotten better in this part, and it seems like the operations are now kind of more smooth in the Georgia facility. But they have been really in a conflict between the headquarters in Sweden and the employees in Georgia, especially the union, and it gotten really ugly where the union workers were blocking the entrance to the building and disrupting the operations, the normal operations, and interfering with workers who did want to work and didn't want to go on a strike. And then the management was really angry at this, and it kind of refuses to really sit to negotiate with the union, which you can think whatever you want about it. I don't know how I feel about it, honestly, but it seems to me that their messaging, I mean, I read everything almost there is to read about this. I was kind of curious anyway, but it seems like the management is a little bit evasive and a little bit sending mixed messages, in my opinion, as to where they stand with it. It feels like they're kind of passive aggressively not want to deal with it and kind of bully them. I mean, I don't want to use the word bully, but kind of push the workers towards stopping just this and stopping all those demands. And I get them, really, I really do get them. But at the same time, they decided to fire a lot of people in Georgia and say that this is the direct result of the union's action. So a lot of people were kind of penalized for this strike, which again, if you agree with it, I totally get it. But I don't know, it feels kind of, but they wouldn't say that out loud. I mean, they've been very political about it. So they're kind of saying that because the operations have been disrupted and it really hurts their revenues, and now they need to cut jobs, and now their customers, and they're right about it, rightfully so, their customers don't want to work with the Georgian studios as much because they don't trust the employees are gonna show up. And I don't know, something about this just feels like they're kind of beating around the bush and they're not being very direct and honest about it. And I get it, really, because they can't just, you know, they need to be politically correct. They are a huge organization with thousands of workers. So this is political. Of course, they need to be political and they need to be politically correct, and they need to choose their words and choose their messaging. But for me, my impression is like it's not clear what the company is trying to do with those employees, and now they're kind of cutting jobs in Georgia and opening more studios in other places in Europe with a clear messaging to Georgia that if you don't stop it right now, we're just gonna cut more workers and move our operations to another country, which I get. Again, I get it. Without getting into politics, I don't know where I stand with it. I get it, but I just feel that the relationship between Evolution's headquarters and their attitude towards their employees in Georgia is a little bit sketchy. I mean, those are your employees. It's your intellectual property. I mean, those employees, people connect to your games to see those employees, and they're the face of your company. I mean, you do need to keep good relationship with those employees. And I get those are kind of student jobs. They're also low pay, like unskilled workers in Georgia. Evolution is recruiting them, and then they're putting them through courses like hosting the shows and shuffling the cards. And then they go and host those games, and they're on live with thousands of Evolution's customers. So I think those employees are important, like an asset for the company. And I get, again, those unskilled workers, and they are replaceable on the one hand. On the other hand, you also don't want to like ruin completely your relationship with them and your reputation as an employer also. So I don't know, again, I understand the stance that the headquarters in Sweden is taking on the one hand. On the other hand, I think they are being a little bit sketchy with their workers, a little bit indirect, a little bit of kind of a mixed messaging. So it kind of a little bit rubs me the wrong way. I don't know what I wouldn't have done differently if I was the management. Maybe just be more clear. I don't know if they can do that, but I don't know, it kind of rubs me the wrong way again. It is what it is. So, but this is not the big issue. Because this thing is gonna resolve itself anyway somehow. It's not, I don't believe it's very material for the future of evolution. I think it is the main reason why the stock price is down, but I don't know how big of a risk it is for the future of evolution, for its success of the company, because either it's gonna get resolved and they're gonna continue to operate in Georgia, either just gonna move to another place, and yes, it's gonna take maybe a few quarters of like a readjustment and like a transition, but eventually they're gonna be fine. I mean, their biggest assets are their games, obviously, and their models and their B2B customers. So I don't think it's a big deal. Just something in the company, I don't know, the way they manage it, I don't know. So that's the first issue. But I think for me, the biggest issue with evolution are their games. So I kind of tried to check it out, and I'm not a gambler. I'm not familiar really well with this industry, with this field. So who am I? Take everything I say with a huge grain of salt. But I kind of looked at their games. It's all over YouTube, and it seems like there's something that a little bit sketchy about their games also, and maybe for whoever, it seems to me, after like I was super curious about it, so even outside of the stock, it seems like a lot of their games, and you know what, with a grain of salt, I'm not saying anything definite, but it seems to me that after looking a little bit at their games, that it is pretty obvious they're rigged. Yeah, it looks like it. There are a few examples, very blunt examples on YouTube, which I kind of got me convinced. And I know that that gamblers and players often, when they lose, they blame the company. Oh, it's all rigged. It's all I've been cheated out of my money, and it's honest, and it's kind of a natural reaction. But looking at it myself, I kind of got convinced. It looks like the games are really calculated, and it's kind of not real. And my first reaction when I realized that the games are kind of unauthentic, my first reaction was, whoa, like this is gonna explode in their face when the word gets out. It's gonna be a huge scandal, and the company is done. And then when I just read and researched a little bit more, and I saw the reaction of gamblers and players, I kind of figured out that everybody knows this. People play, people gamble, and they know the game is rigged. They know it is unreal. They know that when the wheel spins, it's not really spinning. It's all planned and it's all rigged, and there are all the mechanisms behind where there's someone that is controlling it, and they know it, and they're still playing it. And maybe for you it's really obvious. Whoever knows this field, it's pretty obvious to them. For me, it was new. Now it's obvious. Now I see the quality of the video is going to be poor. I'm sorry. I'm working on it. Give it 2 more videos and I think it's going to be fine. Just bear with me, please. Anyway, it seems like everybody knows it, and it's kind of part of the game. It's kind of part of this field, part of the atmosphere, part of the ecosystem of those online gambling websites, where people kind of know, they have a double think, like they kind of know it's rigged, but they still cannot stop playing. Yeah, so which brings me to the other aspect, which is, of course, it's gambling. And of course, addiction is a real thing. And I'm not all into ESG investing. I mean, I think that if it's a business, it's a legit business. it is operating within the frames of the law, and there is a demand for its product, then and it makes money for its owners, it's a legit business. And that's my stance on it. And I'm really not into ESG investing. I'm holding tobacco companies, and I'm holding big pharma companies, and I will hold almost any company. But I don't know, gambling, for me, I'm not sure. I feel like semi-comfortable investing in it. I mean, I'm sure that there are a lot of people who just play it and just have fun with it, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who really have a problem with it, and this problem is real for a lot of people, and it can ruin lives. So I don't know. It's not like if I do invest or don't invest, it's gonna change a lot. But do I wanna like bet my money on this kind of an industry? I'm not sure also. So yeah, but for me, but the biggest problem is just the sketchiness. I feel like the company, it's a little bit sketchy with its employees, and it's kind of sketchy with its customers also. So why wouldn't it be sketchy with its shareholders? I mean, I feel like it's just the natural next step, and it's just something doesn't buy my trust, and it's not like I trust other public companies. I kind of have a cynical distrust with all of them, but this is like taking it to a new level. I don't know, I just don't feel comfortable with it. And the financials are great, and it might do, I'm not saying anything, it might do really, really well, and it might be a super solid business with a super solid management, with a super solid dividend and super solid return of value to shareholders in many years to come. I don't know. But for me, there is this risk of sketchiness here that I just do not feel comfortable with, and especially when after I was burned with Medifast, and my feeling with thinking whether should I invest in evolution or not really reminds me when I invested in Medifast. A few years ago, it was such a similar feeling and such a similar situation where the financials were too good to be true. Zero debt, it still has zero debt, Medifast. So nice growth, buybacks, dividends, whatever. Really, like it was like 50%. I don't know. I don't remember how much return on invested capital. Something absolutely crazy. It was a really sticky business model, but this sketchiness in the business where it was like semi-MLM, multi-level marketing, but not exactly. It's operating within the frames of the law, but kind of like flowing around it, because it's like just one clause away from being illegal, and it has this kind of a sketchy business model where it converts its customers into health coaches, which spread the word and spread the product. And I knew all that, and for me, I chose to believe in the good financials of a company. I said, this management really manages to grow the company well. It's growing. It has a crazy compounding internal return on invested capital, zero debt. I mean, these people know how to manage a company, and I can really trust them with my capital because they seem to be very shareholder oriented. That's the way I thought. And at the same time, I knew something was sketchy about the company with the way it operates, with the way it treats its customers. And I even remember, also, I didn't mention about evolution, but looking at their games, there's something so sketchy for me. I don't know, this is totally subjective, but just everything, just the way the screen is organized, the way those hosts are dressed, the messages of the admin, the chat in this semi-correct English. I don't know, it just seems, I don't know. And it reminds me also of Medifast when I was researching where this website didn't work, and I knew that. I entered the website, and there were buttons which were unclickable, like when you wanted to sign up and for a coach to get back to you, it was unclickable, and I knew that. And it really raised a red flag for me, but still I decided to invest because the financials were so good, and the management seemed to be really shareholder oriented. But this sketchiness really fired back at me. And did Medifast fail because of this sketchiness? Yes and no, but also yes. And I feel like since then, the management have been really dishonest with shareholders, and it was kind of pivoting a lot with this business model. It was really unclear. It was super untransparent, and yeah, I kind of had all the red flags and all the warnings before I invested, and now I see those red flags and warnings with evolution. So I decide to stay out of it. Again, it might do amazing. It seems like really a sticky business model with sticky customers, both the B2B customers and the end customer, really strong compounding, capital management, seems like a safe dividend at this point. But for me, I don't know. I don't want to touch it. I have this nudging feeling, uncomfortable feeling inside me. I'm going to go with it this time. And I don't want to badmouth the company. It might be a really good company. For me, I'm not sure. That's all I'm saying. Maybe it's a great company. I don't know. I don't feel comfortable investing in it, so that's it. There are plenty of companies out there. I'm gonna find something else without having this uncomfortable feeling. So yeah, so that's me on evolution. So when I realized I'm not going to invest in evolution, I still was left with those Swedish kronas, and I had another stock which was on my target just before I went over all the stocks of the Swedish market, which was Svenska Handelsbanken. It's just a high dividend company. It doesn't have a lot of growth, just a bank, It's kind of similar, I think, to Bank of Nova Scotia that I hold, with high dividend, no growth, some kind of risks. But I don't know, I looked at it again. Let's just look at it together. So this is evolution stock, and we see that Fastgraphs is giving it a fair value of 30 because of its really high growth of over 30 in the last few years. And now this year its growth is slowing, and it has all these problems in Georgia also. So if we shorten a little bit the horizon, still it's giving it a 19 PE. So now we see that the company is trading at 16.5 PE. Again, if you believe that everything is good with with the business of the company, then it might be a good entry point. Although still, if growth is slowing down, always take into account what happens if this growth is slowing down. It's gonna probably trade the fair value of a 15 PE multiple. So right now with the 16.6 PE, it has, but still a high growth. It's gonna probably do well, I mean, in the next few years. I don't know. Again, I'm not a big fan, but again, if you believe that everything is good with the company, it's probably a good entry point for growth company, and a nice dividend also. It's also a nice dividend growth company. I have the dividend here, but I don't know. Okay, I've said everything. So when I decided not to invest in evolution, I still had one more Swedish target stock before I went over all the rest of them, which is the Svenska Handelsbanken, which it seems like a no-growth company with a very high dividend yield. But I don't know, just again, looking at this, is this the best opportunity? I don't think so. The dividend is unsteady, so it might one year be 9%, the next year it's gonna be less. It's still gonna be high, so it's gonna be 3.7%. It's still high, but there's no, I don't know if there's an upside here. The earnings are kind of unpredictable. I mean, they steady around this range, even in the financial recession. So I don't know how much of a downside there is, but also I don't know how much of an upside there is. I just don't know, and this not knowing is exactly the risk. I'm not going to invest in something I don't understand, and I can't say I really understand this. This is the Swedish bank. I don't know a lot about the Swedish economy, and I don't know a lot about banks also. I mean, it is a niche of its own. So yeah, I don't know. There's not a reason for me to invest in it, really. So what I did after that was to screen for all the Swedish. I think it's not going to be interesting for most of you, so I'm just going to skim really quick over it. I just screened for all the Swedish stocks that are trading over the counter in the United States, because it's just easier for me to go over them in Fast Graphs and in Guru Focus and on Seeking Alpha. And I exported the results, and I went through all those stickers, and I didn't find anything interesting. A lot of the market is overvalued. The good stocks are overvalued. A lot of them are like commodities and very, very cyclical. Some vehicles like Volvo, and also obviously super cyclical. So I just didn't find any good opportunity. So what I'm gonna do is just sell those Swedish kronas. I don't have much of a choice at this point. It's better to just get out of it once and have this foreign exchange fee than just to try to force myself into one of those investments which I don't really like. Yeah, so that was a kind of misadventure I took with the Swedish stocks. That's okay. I'm not gonna do that again. Next time, if I try to invest in other currencies, it's gonna be probably the euro, when there are plenty of opportunities in different countries. So yeah, so just to share that, I still didn't, but I'm gonna probably exchange those kronos back to the US dollar or to euro and start to search for European stocks, but I'm not quite there yet. Maybe. So yeah, so I just wanted to get it out of the way, and again, sharing my journey. I don't know, it was I know it's probably not one of my best videos, but just to share this and move on to the next stocks. I have a few of very interesting ideas currently, so I just really want to get to them already. And again, I promise the quality is gonna get better. The technical quality of the video is gonna get better in a few weeks. So please, thank you for your patience with this. So yeah, so again, not the best, but a kind of a rant video. So yeah, so that's it for this time, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.